Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Hot Girls Like Art. This episode's called Bring Me the Things I No Longer Understand. And it's my second week looking into memory. I hope you like this week's issue. I have fucked up. I know what this smell means. It means the timer has begun, and this time I cannot forget. Sweat and cotton. The sun is doing its best to turn the room into a live demonstration of life inside the microwave that has been precariously hanging off the shelf above us since I arrived. Next to it, a stack of books that have clearly had more time spent on them than the abandoned luxury gift boxes scattered around the room. My head is spinning. From the organic pharmaceuticals we've spent the last day producing in one another. The duvet's pulled into a crater, the pillows are wedged against the wall, and the nest she's built seems designed for this exact routine. She reaches for another cigarette, and I realize that if our current condition wasn't a red flag, this should be. But it isn't. She lights up and gestures towards me before she manages to finish a complete pull. The sound of the flint in the lighter and the first fizz of the tobacco burning quickly erases any stirring feeling the post-coitus clarity had brought. That bullet of nicotine has brought me right back to the version of reality I'd prefer to be in right now. And why waste a good moment? As she leans over to me to retrieve a makeshift ashtray, I feel the pressure of her lace-clad nipples dragging against my chest. And I'm reminded that even though some parts of the humans we interact with are not real, they are nevertheless very well crafted. Thank you, Dr. Chu. Your work is appreciated. Avoiding the distraction, I gaze over the books. She knows, I know, but the game must continue. Most people wouldn't finish this collection in a lifetime. She has. Despite having days that revolve around art, Pilates, and dance, a regime, every treatment, every detail meticulous, she's managed to be accessible in a way that I haven't yet experienced. She's someone who's clearly decided that if she is going to exist, she's going to do it as a standard most people don't have the discipline to sustain. I drift away. Reminiscing about being a 13-year-old boy spending his money from washing cars to buy the girl down the street a rose. An act she describes as weird and a bit gay. A confusing moment for the boy, but one in this current situation, while mired in sunshine, smoke and sweat, and watching Slavic Wonder Woman take back a Marlboro Red, that is beginning to suggest he wasn't doing anything weird at all. But there is something he will have to explore in his complex choice of women. Nevertheless, from where he sat now, somehow, it all worked out. Kind of. He is content with himself. Isn't that enough? But as much as I want to be convinced that this is it, with how easy that should be given the ineffectiveness of all the red flags around me, for some reason, I cannot. Until her head pokes under my shoulder, skin pressed against mine, and I finally realize what it is. That I have smelt this before. Now, please, this is not a bad smell. She is not, as they say in the playground, smelly. Quite the opposite. If anything, it's beautiful. It's floral, a touch metallic, maybe even pharmaceutical. No, it's not perfume. I also smelt her perfume before. Maison Francais, Baccarat Rouge 540. Yes, somewhat red flaggy now, but some latitude is needed given the time. It's underneath. It's her. And I don't know why I've smelt it before or when, and I don't know what that means right now, apart from one thing that I do know, and that is that something is not right, and that a timer has begun. We keep certain memories because we like having access to them. They're the ones we share with friends and fondle with care when we're alone. They form as stories, ideas, narratives, but some things are too complex to hold as any of these things. Some things are too painful to keep in vivid detail. So we compress them into systems. They are processed into rules, habits, treaties, and reflexes, allowing us to get rid of the heavy reasoning behind. If you ever had a hunch or felt something guiding you in your gut or chest, but had no idea why, it's likely this. The subconscious system built on memories we no longer see. Don't go down that street, the dog will get you. We don't always remember the dog, just not to go down the street. Groups, nations, economies all do this too. They compress reasoning into a more manageable structure so it's easier to function. Over time, we don't just lose the reasoning, we lose the ability to question it. The system continues to spin, And we obey because it's been right often enough that doubt feels like a lower payoff bet than trust. The body sends a warning, an interpretation that the smell isn't right. And all of a sudden, we have no idea why, but we know what we have to do. The Library of Alexandria wasn't a library in the way we think of libraries in the modern world. It was a state-level project to centralize the reasoning behind how society navigated, built, healed, and governed. Ptolemy I started it by seizing manuscripts from ships going in and out of the harbor, and would sometimes only return the copies, something that's crazy in the modern world when we think about the pressure on AI for information gathering. Every scroll was a compressed decision someone else had already tested with their own blood, money, or time. And he wanted that reasoning all under one roof where it could be taken apart by his scholars and processed. At its peak, it held close to 400,000 scrolls. Euclid's Elements was written inside of it through pulling together all the knowledge of geometry that already exists in fragments across the Mediterranean/planet and compressed it into a system that was so coherent in its presentation that it outlasted the building by something like 2,000 years. When the library burns down, the knowledge survives in a certain format because it had already been scattered around. The problem that they then face is that there was no ability to interrogate it. They understood what they had to do. The ship still sailed, the laws still functioned, the medicine continued. But the why behind every one of those systems was sealed inside this system, now unreachable. Over generations, over time, it's the what that survives, not the why. What does it mean to lose the reasoning underneath something that still functions? A relationship that runs on its own infrastructure long after both people have forgotten what they were building. A fear response that fires every time, faithful as a dog guarding a door that no longer exists, a smell that triggers something the conscious mind deleted years ago, and the body kept on fire. Is this how the loss of free will occurs? Brunello Cucinelli has spent 40 years trying to solve this from another direction. And I don't think memory is what he's looking at, but memory is what he is building. In Solomeo, a small Umbrian village halfway between Perugia and nothing, he bought a ruined castle, a church, and the surrounding farmland, and moved his cashmere company in. He did this around 1985. His thesis, which is called humanistic capitalism, is that dignity and profit are not opposed. And his way to prove this is to enshrine it in an environment where they are structurally inseparable. The artisans that work there leave at 5:30, lunch is provided and communal. The workshops training techniques that take years to learn and cannot be replicated by machines. There's no desire for them to be replicated by machines. The skills live in the hands of the people that are there, that practice them daily. Yes, there are books that support that, but when a master artisan retires and leaves his practice, that knowledge either exists in the hands of the apprentices or it's gone. He said he wants the village to outlast his company and that the architecture is the real product and that the cashmere is just how you pay for it. I'm going later this year and I want to know what it feels like to stand in a system that is trying to construct that deliberately. A memory system. I want to see if the seams show, whether the warm is real or performative, and whether the artisans are actually free or held in place. Because even though they're paid significantly better than the surrounding towns, that also creates a wall. It's a deep investment in craft with one viable buyer, Brunello, is also a dependency. A limited public transport system beyond the economic zone is a boundary. It's a system where the memory of this being a good life is reinforced through ritual and inertia. And that in itself is not necessarily sinister because based on their neighborhood, they are having a better life. But it does have limitations if we desire to maximize freedom for all the constituent parts inside, far further afield. If it's not clear already, this is how memory systems work. Enshrined rules and relationships within tight boundaries that don't bring in information from outside. They protect the knowledge. Because when you let things in from outside, maybe it all burns down. Alexandria recorded the reasoning in its original format and lost it to a fire over time. It wasn't well protected. Solomeo makes the reasoning physical again, but places it within the hands of the people that are there in the systems and risks losing it to the market demand from outside. What if no one wants to buy Cucinelli next season? Both are asking the same question. How do you keep the original reasoning alive long enough for it to matter? Now, I don't have an answer, but lying in that room those many years ago, surrounded by evidence that should convince me of something else, I knew a feeling. My body pulled this little file out of my mind that had burned away years ago. I didn't have context or memory of why. I just had this trade agreement that I knew I had to execute faithfully and precisely, drawn out of a memory I could no longer recall. Maybe that's enough. Maybe the system doesn't need to explain itself to be right. The smell is the reasoning, compressed so much that it doesn't need the story anymore. I just need to experience the trigger and act on it. But the question remains, if I don't know where it came from, how do I know if it is still what I need to listen to? The hardest part of understanding the subconscious isn't being able to recognize when it's driving us around. It's unpicking what happened in the first place, enough for us to build a system around it that protected it, that hid it. And only then can we decide whether it should still exist. This week, I've been thinking about belief. If there's a reason you think you can't do something, there might be something underneath it telling you why. Sometimes you have to look around in the shadows to find it, and when you do, it's worth asking whether it's still a good way to be. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, please share it with a friend that's interested in memory, art, or a relatively amateur writer trying to bring more attention to the things that he thinks are important. Nothing but love. I hope you have a great day. Peace.